Hey, how's it going guys, Kris here with another Battlefield 5 video for you today. And in this one, I'm going to be putting two of the medics' SMGs side by side and giving you all the ins and outs of all their stats, similarities and differences along the way. Weapon number one is the MAB-38, an Italian submachine gun which came into the scene in 1938 and proved to be quite popular with German soldiers. Weapon number two is the MP34, another SMG which was also pretty popular with the Germans, but was very expensive to produce due to its high quality manufacture. Both of these medic weapons have quite a lot of similar factors, and kinda play out in the same sort of way in Battlefield 5. But of course, they're not entirely the same thing, with each gun having certain qualities that are better than the other, allowing them to perform a little bit differently in specific situations. And this just might make one of these guns better suited to your playstyle as a result. It's my job to highlight these key differences and similarities, and let you know exactly how these two weapons are going to function in comparison with each other. Let's get those stats up. So first things first, I'm going to run over all the things that affect the weapon's deadliness, and as far as damage stats go, the two guns actually dish out some different figures, affecting their lethality at certain ranges. Up to the distance of 10 meters, both the MAB-38 and the MP34 follow the typical SMG damage pattern, inflicting 25 damage, which equates over to a 4-shot kill. So there's nothing really out of the ordinary going on within close quarters, but with damage gradually dropping off over distance beyond 10 meters, the number of bullets needed to take down other players is going to be increased. And this is where things start to get a little bit more interesting, because the MAB-38 is going to function like most of the other SMGs in the game, with damage slumping down to as low as 13.2 at the range of 100 meters, but the MP34 will actually reach its slightly higher minimum damage value of 15 at 75 meters, where it'll stop dropping any lower, giving it a slight range advantage over the MAB-38, and allowing it to kill in one less bullet beyond 75 meters, translating to a 7-shot kill rather than an 8-shot kill. This could potentially speed up the MP34's kill times against players further away, but if we take fire rates into account, we can see that the MAB-38 is going to be superior straight off the bat, firing at 600 RPM, so round about 15% quicker than the MP34, shooting at the speed of 514 RPM. Naturally, this makes the MAB-38 the faster killing weapon in most cases, though if your target happens to be further than 75 meters, then the MP34's higher minimum damage will actually give it the shorter kill times, making it a deadlier long-range weapon, despite it firing a bit slower. But it's not over there, because unlike the MAB-38, the MP34 can actually have its fire rate increased with the light bolt specialization, and this puts it on the very same level as the MAB-38, allowing it to fire at 600 RPM as well. This narrows the gap between the gun's kill times within those shorter sight lines, putting them much more in line with each other. But with the MP34 still packing more of a punch over those longer ranges, this gives it even more of an edge, potentially letting it be the deadlier gun for picking off targets further away, killing in less shots, all whilst firing at the same speed. So anyway, moving on, it's time to see how those recoil values are going to affect the weapon's ease of use. And there's quite a few interesting things to point out in this section, because those precision stats are going to directly affect the gun's effectiveness within certain ranges, making them feel easier or harder to use. If we take a look at that horizontal recoil, we can see that both the MAB-38 and the MP34 share the very same value of 0.2, essentially making them about as accurate as each other, with your line of fire kicking around left and right in the same sort of way. But if we look at the gun's vertical recoil, the MAB-38 is going to bounce upwards a little bit more, having a heavier recoil value of 0.55 rather than 0.48. The MAB-38 also has a slightly higher vertical increase value of 0.06, as opposed to 0.05, and both of these factors combined are going to affect the MAB's stability, making it a harder weapon to control, especially with sustained fire. The gun also typically shoots a little bit faster too, depending on specialization choices, and well, that's also going to impact stability even more too, with recoil stacking up at a slightly quicker rate. And despite having the same sort of accuracy as the MP34, the MAB-38 is generally going to seem to drift upwards more as you fire away, possibly making it a harder weapon to use against players over those mid to long distances, often forcing you to burst your shots into smaller groupings in order to stay on target. Taking muzzle velocity into account, this is yet another thing that gives the MP34 a range advantage, with it having the faster bullet speed of 495 meters per second, instead of the MAB's 345 meters per second velocity, which is pretty damn slow. So this will further enhance the MP34's use over distance, as you probably won't need to lead your target's movements quite as much. But when we start slapping those specializations onto the two weapons, some unexpected things start to happen. High velocity bullets can be applied to both weapons, but this actually increases both of their bullet speeds to the same value of 560 meters per second, which is a massive boost for the MAB38 particularly, allowing its bullets to travel almost twice as fast. They've both got access to the ported barrel too, but that spec actually lowers horizontal values to different figures, despite them having the same value to begin with. With the ported barrel, you'll lower the MAB's recoil down to 0.15, but the MP34 actually benefits from this specialization even more, by essentially making it twice as accurate as normal, dropping horizontal recoil down to just 0.1. So despite having some of the same specializations, some are going to have a stronger effect on a specific gun than the other. Though only the MP34 has access to the recoil buffer to lower its vertical recoil down further, plus make it even more controllable against players further away. And on the flip side, only the MAB38 has access to the polished action and enhanced grip specs to boost hipfire accuracy over the MP34, thus making it even more usable against enemies within shorter sightlines. So these exclusive specializations nicely complement both weapons' effective ranges a bit more. Now, with the two weapons both being submachine guns designed to be used within short to mid ranges, reliability is a very important factor to consider that's definitely going to help or hinder your performance, due to you being vulnerable more often, using the guns within dangerous territory, close to all the action, and behind enemy lines. In this case, both the MAB38 and the MP34 use detachable magazines, and they also happen to have the exact same ammo capacity of 20 shots standard. 20 rounds total isn't exactly a marvellous amount to have at your disposal, as you'll probably find yourself reloading more often than you'd probably like, though it's usually enough to drop a couple of enemies in CQC without too many issues. Obviously, the faster the gun shoots, the harder it'll be to moderate how many rounds are being discharged. So the bog standard MP34 with its slower fire rate just might seem to manage its ammo a tad better, possibly allowing you to make better use of those fairly small mags. But lo and behold, with the use of specializations, both the MAB38 and the MP34 do indeed have access to extended magazines, increasing those ammo capacities to much more comfortable amounts. It'll give the MAB up to 30 rounds to play with, and the MP34 a couple more, with a new total of 32. So I guess it'll benefit the MP34 slightly more so, but 2 extra shots isn't exactly a game-changing thing to go nuts about, at the end of the day. Having an extended magazine helps to make both weapons a lot more reliable within their optimal range, fairly close to all the danger, and they'll basically let you kill an extra enemy or two, which will be really useful when you're coordinating flanks, or if you get caught out in the middle of a heated firefight. Especially in the MAB38's case, with having the faster fire rate and heavier recoil, often seeming to waste more shots as a result. But let's talk a little bit about those reload times, because funnily enough, there isn't really a hell of a lot of difference between the two guns. If you want to perform a tactical reload and swap over a partially empty mag, then it's going to take the very same time for both weapons to do this, exactly 2.4 seconds each. And this doesn't change either if you've decided to use extended magazines, with them taking the same time to switch around too. Empty reloads also follow a very similar pattern, with the two guns roughly having the same speeds. The MP34 reloads in 3.35 seconds, and the MAB has the empty reload of 3.4. Not enough to make any sort of noticeable difference, but statistically speaking, the MP34 could be seen to have a teeny-weeny advantage here. But that's until you get the MAB38's quick reload specialization involved, which the MP34 doesn't have. This will nicely lower the MAB's tactical reloads down to about 2 seconds, and its empty ones down to about 2.9. And if you decide to combine this with the extended magazine, that could potentially turn the MAB into a much more dependable choice that'll be able to cater to aggressive playstyles without leaving you quite as vulnerable in close quarters. So which gun should you choose? The MAB38 and the MP34 are both sort of middle ground SMGs that aren't quite as brutal as some of the others on offer, but at the same time can often seem easier to manage, having a nice balance of traits to make them feel more usable over a wider field of play. They both share quite a lot of the same characteristics, being relatively accurate weapons with similar magazine sizes and fire rates, but at the same time the two guns are still going to perform better than each other in specific scenarios, as despite them being catered to the same sort of passive-aggressive playstyle, there's definitely plenty of distinction between them to make one feel better than the other, depending on the player picking it up of course. The MAB38 is typically the more aggressive option that'll probably be more of an ideal fit for run and gun playstyles, with it being more suited for shorter range battles and close quarter combat. It's got some fairly decent accuracy values, but will probably seem harder to control against targets further away, generally having higher vertical recoil and lower muzzle velocity, unless of course you choose to use the high velocity bullet spec, sacrificing quick reloads. It's typically got the quicker fire rate, so you'll burn through ammo faster, and so those reliability specializations will often seem very important, to make the gun feel more usable within its optimal range. Though with the MAB having more specializations centered on increasing hipfire accuracy, this will once again strengthen its use for short distance fights, and all of these factors combined generally make it a more effective offensive weapon in comparison to the MP34. The MP34 on the other hand will often seem to be a stronger gun to use against targets running around over those medium distances instead, as it's got quite a few factors that will help it excel over the MAB for its ranged performance, not only with it dealing a bit more damage over longer distances, but with it also generally having higher muzzle velocity and a recoil pattern that's easier to control. It can potentially be as deadly as the MAB38 in close quarters too, though you'll have to sacrifice that extended magazine specialization in order to achieve this same deadliness, making the MP34 a much less reliable gun as a result. Though with it having certain choices to further enhance its use over range, this could make it seem like a more well-rounded gun for taking on players over different distances. For this reason, the MP34 just might be the more versatile option of the two. It'll feel easier to use and land shots on targets over further ranges, yet still perform fine enough against opponents close by too. But in comparison to the MAB38, it'll often seem to be a bit more restricted in CQC, due to it either having smaller magazines or a slower rate of fire, usually giving the MAB the advantage for attacking up on the front lines. So that's just about it for another one, folks. Hope you enjoyed the video and maybe learned a few things along the way. If you did, you know what to do. And make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell to be the first to see new content coming up in the future. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll be seeing you in that next episode.